Good evening. This is Maestro Critello with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today, we have a 3v3 on Calderis Refinery. Our first player today is Finale, playing as the Eldar Warlock. The Eldar Warlock is an Eldar melee hero. He can become a tanky melee hero, or an offensive spellcaster, or a support spellcaster, so you really get a lot of versatility with the Warlock. It depends what you want to do with him and how you kit him out. By default, he just starts out with a sword, and he can use that to tie things up, as well as he has that Destructor ability, which is an offensive spell. Next up, we've got Venjitron, playing as the Eldar Farseer. She is also an Eldar melee hero. And you know, she does have some similarities to the Warlock in that she can fight in melee decently if you give her an upgraded weapon. She also does some spell casting, and she has spells both for damage and support and control. She tends to err a little bit more on the spell casting side than the Warlock, and she does not have the tankiness that he can get with his energy shield. Finally, we've got Lieutenant Ekul playing as the Eldar Farseer. The Eldar Warp Spider Exarch gets out of there with 1 hit point. He is a teleporting Eldar hero who can fight in both ranged and melee, and he does not really do quite as much of the support or spellcasting, but he can teleport around, which gives him a lot of ability to annoy people and control the map. Next up, on the other team, we've got a Grey Knight Bro Captain who's about to go down to some Banshees. Really got to be careful with the Bro Captain around Banshees. You can't put the Bro Captain in against Banshees the way you can put in the Chaos Lord, the Force Commander, or the Warboss. He doesn't have a Disruption on Command ability. And he doesn't actually do that much damage to start out. But anyway, tanky melee hero in Terminator armor, cannot be knocked down or suppressed. Next up, we've got Crewfinity playing as the Orc Kommando Nob, a subtle orc by orc standards. He can go invisible or infiltrated, and then he can come out of infiltration and surprise people with a variety of guns, bombs, and even a knife. And then finally, we've got Baby Tonight, not subtle by any standards, orc or otherwise. He is a big tanky melee hero. He can disrupt with his stomp. He can also just charge in, and he also has those Warboss buffs, Use Your Choppas and Ard Boys, which are extremely powerful globals. I'd say some of the best globals in the game. Alright, looks like red team has the advantage. Blue team apparently had the early double cap, and they have the advantage in their VPs, so they still have the lead in real VPs, but red team is the one with the double cap. Crewfinity moving around in the middle, kind of going over to the lane where Veyasu is. This positioning not going to be so good for Veyasu. He should already have retreated his strike squad, and now they're going to get hit by Howling Banshees. Howling Banshees just might... I think if they had pursued a little bit more, they could have gotten a strike squad model, but I think they decided to prioritize keeping their presence out on the field instead of just going in for a model, and they probably would have had to retreat after that. But Ekul now getting doubled because we have... Crewfinity moving over to this lane, moving in with his sluggas, pretty much everything he has. And these Howling Banshees for Ekul are now in a lot of trouble retreating out of there. They are at 2 out of 5 models. 1 goes down and just 1 model left with 25 hit points. Ekul does manage to move back his shuriken and reposition, and he's actually managing to hold for a little bit, and look at this. Now we have Venjitron coming in to support, and he actually takes out Crewfinity's sluggas. Very, very nice, considering that was Ekul getting doubled, and Ekul managed to get out of there. Well, he did have to reinforce 4 Banshee models, which is quite expensive, but overall Crewfinity came out on the worst end of that engagement, getting doubled in return after the fact, and we lost an entire squad of sluggas. Now Veyasu actually getting hit pretty hard, did lose a strike squad model, definitely lost a stormtrooper, and he's not careful. Well, actually at this point he probably won't lose a Purgation model, although the Farseer might have some otherwise. My god, look at what the Purgation squad is doing to those Dire Avengers. Does not actually take out a model, but just look at the damage that they took, although they are of course very weak to start out. Certainly Dire Avengers in their vanilla form are definitely not cost effective, since you have to reinforce 27 requisition per model for models that are as tough as Guardsmen. That's in their vanilla form. Of course, they do get a little bit tougher once you get their aspect, since they get a 33% health increase, and then even more so if and when, although you should try to get the Dire Avenger Exarch in Tier 2, since he will grant a passive damage resistance, I believe it's 17.5, as well as he's got 250 health of his own, I believe. Maybe even more. But either way, he's quite a bit more durable than a regular Dire Avenger model. Alright, wow. Now we've got Crewfinity's about to get hit by double Rangers, so he's just going to be losing a model with every shot those Rangers take. And those Rangers, they fire faster than the Scout Snipers. But double Ranger is going to be good against pretty much everything that's out on the field right now. It's good against Orcs compositions, since they're going to lose a model with every shot pretty much. Certainly the Shooter Boys and the Slugger Boys. I think the Storm Boys might, they'll probably be able to survive a single shot, so they won't lose a model instantly. There we go with a grenade on top of some suppression, and I think Crewfinity loses an entire shooter squad right there with some suppression with a grenade on top, as Tarkus would say, use a grenade. And there, someone used a grenade, and it was very effective. Veyasu now with a 1-1-1-1 build. He's got both his starting Stormtroopers. Usually you see at least 2 Stormtroopers, but not in this case. And I feel like usually you don't see both Purgations and Interceptors, but in this case you do. Alright, but we've got a lot of melee units out on the field. This is a huge amount of DPS to have Storm Boys and Slugger Boys out, and the Storm Boys just keep jumping because we've got Storm Boys for both Crewfinity and Baby Tonight. Now, oh my god, Howling Banshee's now in a ton of trouble, and their only saving grace could be, but they don't even get out of there. I was going to say I think the only saving grace was the other squad of Howling Banshees, but this might actually be a wipe on the Interceptors, and in fact it will be. So losses on both sides. Bro Captain, no, I don't think he's going to go down again because he has so much health, and now he also has the Blessed Aegis, giving him both increased health and health regeneration. Now, oh my god, Veyasu actually lost 2 squads right there. I saw him lose the Interceptors. I did not see him lose his Purgation, deciding to replace the Purgation. But we got a matchup right here. This is one, if it weren't for Veyasu, we would actually have an Eldar versus Orcs faction war right here. And, I mean, Eldar and Orcs they're 2 races that they're similar in some ways, mainly in that they're both very high DPS races, and they're both, I would say, glass cannon races. They both do a lot of damage, and their models they also just aren't really that tough in terms of durability. So they're both kind of like glass cannon races in that sense. That being said, the Orcs can generally brute force their way a little bit more than Eldar, since they generally have cheaper squads, certainly cheaper to reinforce. On the Shooter Boys, their damage is concentrated mainly in the big Shooter models as well as the Nob model. Unfortunately, Veyasu not reacting at all. Lucky to not lose a single model, though, and now he can actually just retreat these squads, not lose a model, and, well, not actually suffer for it. However, I think now he's going to lose a model to the Warp Spider Exarch here. Wow, and look at how quickly just 2 of those models went down. I actually think if he teleported and chased some of these Inquisitorial Stormtroopers, he could probably get 1 more model. But he's prioritizing, certainly getting a Strike Squad model would be a much bigger prize than getting another Stormtrooper model. This Warp Spider Exarch, meanwhile, almost fully upgraded, has the heavy gauge Death Spinner. I have old Resale tooltips right here, which says that the heavy gauge Death Spinner does the same damage as his regular Death Spinner, but that's not true. It actually does more damage. It also gives you the heavy gauge filament ability, which allows him to knock down a model that he targets. Very, very powerful against heroes. He's also got the improved targeters for even more damage and range, and also the enhanced warp generators, just so he can teleport around more often and farther. This is terrible positioning for, this has got to be Venjitron right here. It looks like he already lost a squad. Yeah, he lost his Howling Banshees before. We caught that on screen. Nearly lost a Ranger squad right here, and those Rangers, well, they are a power squad, so it does cost power to reinforce them, and they're also a squad where those extra models don't really do much aside from helping the squad not die. But we've got some Tier 2 vehicles now out on the field. Wraithlord coming out, not getting any kind of upgrade, yet at least. And we've got a Death Dread on the other side, immediately upgrading to Burners and Bits to give it more health, as well as replacing the Shooters with Burners. Autark called down for Lieutenant Ekul. Great unit. Definitely you've seen a bit of my Autark lately, and I like to use that Autark and call her down a lot. She really does a lot. In part, first, the way you call her in is very useful in the middle of an engagement, can usually help you win whatever engagement is going on at that time. And then once she's out on the field, she's so fast, she just ties things up, great counter to ranged units. And she doesn't bleed because she's a single entity, a very, very powerful sub-commander. Although, most sub-commanders are pretty good. Alright, Autark does need to be very careful, and we have another Autark called in. This one called in for Venjitron, and he gets some pretty nice grenades. If they actually focused on this Slugga model, they could have taken it out, but they're not. They're focusing on just winning the engagement at hand. And the two Autarks combined should be able to win right here, certainly over the Shooter Boys, as well as the Kommando Nob right here. Kommando Nob now in a lot of trouble. Throws a stun bomb, which actually is going to miss everything. So a very nice dodge from Venjitron, and he takes out the Kommando Nob. So Eldar players right here getting the very good end of things, winning their engagements. Ooh, this, and unfortunately a missed retreat grenade opportunity, or the grenades weren't cooldown. Oh, he didn't have enough energy. That, or he used Embolden. Ooh. Oh, he used Embolden, so they definitely didn't have enough energy after using Embolden. I don't know if the grenade was already on cooldown, however. But the Eldar players on this side actually pretty much dominating at this point. Meanwhile, the Death Dread now in a bit of trouble. It would definitely lose to the Wraith Lord, and we have a Farseer right here who only has the Singing Spear upgrade. She's kind of derping a little bit, not really getting her attacks right. But at this point, this Wraith Lord is now in a bit of trouble. And the Death Dread's in a bit of trouble. The Wraith Lord, meanwhile, has upgraded to a Shuriken Cannon, so it's not going to be doing any damage to the Death Dread at range, but it would still win in melee anyway. And that Shuriken Cannon will actually make it very, very threatening to Orc Infantry. Meanwhile, however, we do have a Grey Knight Dreadnought out of Veyasu, and this is something that would be able to threaten the Wraith Lord, since it can do damage at range with that multi-melta that it starts out with. Now, I believe in the next patch, or even the next version, I think they're getting ready for 2.3. The Grey Knight Dreadnought will no longer start out with a multi-melta. Instead, it will start out with a Hurricane Bolter. Ooh, but we've got a special shooter out of the Kommando Nob, out of Crewfinity right here. Howling Banshee's in a lot of trouble, and they do go down. So another spot of Howling Banshees goes down. That's Lieutenant Ekul's Howling Banshees, so only Finale has his Howling Banshees left, and his are only level 1. A lot of things are going on right here. Let's see, it looks like Finale trying to get out on the field, but he's getting overwhelmed by some Storm Boys. Storm Boys had a late jump right there, and we had some Ethereal Slash from the Warboss, from the Warlock rather, and the Sluggers lose most of their models. Meanwhile, and those final squad of Howling Banshees goes down. Not a good game for Howling Banshees. Now, the Howling Banshees typically are the superior melee unit, superior to many of the Orc melee units, at least in a straight-up fight. But if they're in a position where they do have to retreat, that is going to be really, really bad for them. And suddenly, this Grey Knight Dreadnought actually only has 4 health. I think it was just all the support maybe from Howling Banshees, as well as the Farseer with the Singing Spear that resulted in that death. That being said, I mean, we've got Venjitron pushing very, very hard for that Grey Knight Dreadnought. I was actually wondering if he should have kept pushing into base, and Veyasu certainly should have turned around once that Wraith Lord stopped firing and started shooting with his multi-melta. Meanwhile, man, we've got, this is Baby Tonight being very, very aggressive. Crewfinity has somehow lost everything. Well, not everything. He kept his Storm Boys and his Death Dread. Meanwhile, oh my god, this Warboss! He's just right in front of the base, and he just killed something. I think it was a setup team. And Finale just lost a ton of stuff from that rush that that Baby Tonight did. I don't even know who Baby Tonight is. He's one of the names in this replay who I do not recognize, but he's been dominating. Oh my god, look at this close range weird boy just disrupting that Guardian weapon team. Alright, Autark jumps in. Now we've got, let's see, this is, whose Autark is this? This is Venjitron. So he does actually have the energy shield. No, actually he doesn't. It looks like he did for a second. Or he just has Distort Field active, because it looks like he has an energy shield. It's hard to tell, but it's not showing that she has upgraded to the energy shield in the box, although maybe it doesn't do that. It only shows when you upgrade to the Executioner. Orc Kommando Nob reviving the Bro Captain. He gets up. He's still only got the Blessed Aegis. Meanwhile, we do have a fully kitted out Kommando Nob. Stick bombs he's had for a while. We saw the Special Shooter, and he also has the Mega Boom Kit. And that improves his explosive abilities. Now, I mean, it pretty much doesn't tell you exactly how it does that, and I'm used to having that kind of information. It doesn't say whether it improves damage, decreases cooldown, improves range, increases radius, just as it improves his explosive abilities. So we'll just have to take their word for it. Storm Boy's jumping in. I feel like that Storm Boy jump in was a little bit risky. Even though they were jumping in on a bunch of melee units, and they would, of course, counter melee units, I think they were just in a position there where there were too many units around, so they couldn't tie up everything. And some of those melee units were actually just going to, or some of those range units were just going to focus fire the Storm Boys. Meanwhile, the Warboss went down as well here, trying to take out the Wraith Lord. And the Wraith Lord is actually in a ton of trouble, and those tank buses need to get tied up. Storm Boy's even jumping in, and they are actually in a huge amount of trouble because they teleported into that Guardian Weapon Team firing arc, but here is a Rox. Everything is bunched up right here. Oh my god, I think Venjitron just lost multiple squads from that. I thought he was almost going to get lucky, but he didn't. Meanwhile, we've got the... use a grenade again to take out the Death Dread, and some Seer Council were also there trying to finish off that Death Dread. So, oh my god, a lot of things dying. Pretty nice rocks, pretty opportune time. Although those Storm Boys did go down in the process, but Crewfinity lost all of his squads. He is getting some flash kits out on the field, some very good shooting infantry. They have a new model for their Blastos. I guess it's not so new so more, but I haven't even seen it that much. Meanwhile, I hear the sound of the Warp Spider Exarch teleporting around level 6, so he's been getting a lot of kills, and certainly against I'd say against the races that he's up against, he can definitely get a lot of experience, especially with his war gear configuration. He's actually going to be doing a lot of range damage. I think he would actually do more than a single tac squad with his current war gear configuration. More than a single tac squad by himself, a single entity. That being said, this Dire Avenger squad needs to get out of there. And the Warp Spider Exarch, yeah, I mean, just whether it's bleeding, he can easily bleed Stormtrooper models, can also easily bleed most Orc models, and Orc's just in full retreat at this point. Finale with his Warlock fully upgraded as well. Providence, Witchblade of Kurnos, and the Warp Throw. So this is an alternative, I'd say like an alternative to the, well, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just a war gear configuration. It's not the most popular one, but it's definitely a known one. And I'd say it's not the most popular one since a lot of it relies on Providence. These two war gears, the Witchblade of Kurnos and the Warp Throw, they do synergize pretty well. Having both of them synergizes pretty well with Providence, but Providence is an expensive tier 3 war gear. And wow, so Purgation nearly died from that Eldritch Storm, although overall that Eldritch didn't achieve a whole lot. Double flash kits now out for This Is Crewfinity. They still just have, ooh, what do we got going over here? We had another Rox. This one missed. Well, I missed it, and I don't think it did as much as that first Rox. But Crewfinity right here with his double flash kits. Let's take a look at those flash kits. Just a mob of flash kits. Meanwhile, over here, Brightlance getting in a little bit of trouble. Brightlance is actually not a bad choice at all for helping to deal with the Paladins. It will hit the Paladins, and then if you have other sources of damage around, especially something like Dark Reapers, you can use the Beam Scorch ability on the Brightlance to increase the damage that the Paladins take. These Paladins still pretty scary, but we've got some Seer Council right here, and the Seer Council would definitely be a counter to the Paladins. The Seer Council, however, I would say, if anything, are getting countered by the Flash Kits. That's really, really tough for them. And these Seer Council belong to Finale. No. These Seer Council belong to Lieutenant Ekul, and his look a little bit different. His have those hair bows, and that was another Eldritch Storm. I didn't like that Eldritch Storm. Meanwhile, these look like the regular Warlocks. But either way, Seer Council are going to be very, very good against Paladins or any Terminator variant recently. I think they'd mainly need to be careful against Assault Terminators with Lightning Claws, or Chaos Terminators with Lightning Claws by extension. However, I'd say for Finale, I feel like he's got the Warp Throw, and that's certainly really good. It would be pretty nice to support the Seer Council with Channeling Runes. Not Channeling Runes. Is that it? Wow, I'm blanking out here. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah, it's channeling runes. I was getting that confused with... I thought maybe that was the Farseer's warrior for a little bit. But yeah, channeling runes. But we've got the Death Roller now out for... this is Baby Tonight. And Death Roller, oh my god. Very, very good at killing things on retreat. Finale, meanwhile, now he's probably going to lose a bunch of stuff. And this is unfortunately really, really sad for him. There goes that ability shot. Oh my god. Dire Avengers in a lot of trouble. They need to get reinforced just to survive, but they're still taking hits. And Finale's avatar is not going to come out soon enough. He could really, really use help. Venjitron just telling him to hang in there, but again, he could really use some kind of help. So Venjitron, oh, Lieutenant Ekul is moving over his Bright Lance. And he is communicating that he is bringing his Bright Lance. His Bright Lance, unfortunately, moving a little too far forward. Unfortunately, I don't think he was quite paying attention, and I think he just moved it and then kind of forgot about it. Now his Bright Lance is in a lot of trouble, and he does not do anything with that Bright Lance. Warlock, meanwhile, retreats out of there. I guess Providence is not ready. Providence is charged by taking damage, and then once the Warlock has Providence, he becomes invulnerable for a short period of time, and he can also use his abilities. His energy and his energy regeneration is much faster, and his cooldowns are much shorter. Bro Captain down yet again. Unfortunately, that Bro Captain has really not been doing a whole lot for Veyasu. I think he's been just doing too much, overextending it and sending it to fights that he can't win. And here we go with... Oh no. Did we have an Autarch go down? It looks like yes. That is Venjitron's Autarch. So he lost his Autarch. She disappears. And now we also have some Grey Knight Terminators for Veyasu. And this is definitely something that can be a bit scary about Grey Knights when they have both Grey Knight Terminators and Paladins, or when they just have two of one of the other, or whatever I just said. Anyway, we have an Avatar right here. Now, the Avatar can at least keep the Battle Wagon away from the rest of Finale stuff, but it's also taken a lot of damage. Bright Lance, meanwhile, also taking shots, and the Fire Prism, unfortunately, not targeting the Battle Wagon. We've got a lot of things coming in here that can target that Battle Wagon and do some damage to it, but it hasn't been happening yet. Oh. But meanwhile, we've got the Kommando Nob. He is throwing a bunch of things. Unfortunately, he completely misses, well, not completely, but he mostly misses there with the stick bombs. He did manage to use the rocket launcher just to knock over a lot of these things. And actually, he's got the rocket launcher, which is going to be very good for hunting them down this Fire Prism. Meanwhile, we've got another Avatar out. This one is Lieutenant Ekul's. He's also got some Dire Avengers, and they're actually doing very well, just tanking against both the Stormtroopers and the Strike Squad. Now that comes down to them now having their Dire Avenger Exarch. And again, he passively reduces damage. He's a tougher model. And he also grants the Embolden ability, which is very nice. Increases the damage of the squad. I believe it also breaks suppression. Avatar uses Wrath of Cain to knock a bunch of units over. And this is actually not so good for the Grey Knight Terminators. The Seer Council as well, actually in a little bit of danger themselves with both the Grey Knight Terminators and the Paladins right here. Actually, now it's the Avatar in a whole lot of trouble. That is the end of this Avatar. It has to be. The Paladins, I think, will just stay in long enough to take out the Avatar, and that is the end of that Avatar. I think some or one of the Eldar players might want to consider, particularly Ekul, since he's in this lane, getting some Dark Reapers to help himself deal with the Paladins, as well as the Grey Knight Terminators, and really everything. And oh my god, we have this Battle Wagon being very annoying. He's definitely using the Battle Wagon to really the best of its abilities. However, it did finally go down from the combination of some D-Cannon as well as some Fire Dragons, but he's just using that. Oh my god. Here we go, and well, not quite as much happens as I thought, but still. I think Shooter Squad going down. This is Baby Tonight. Gee, I wonder who this Baby Tonight guy is. With that Battle Wagon play, I would almost say Toilet Lee, although Toilet Lee probably would not have lost his Battle Wagon there. He probably would have seen other things coming and not lost him. Anyway, we should have a lot of things going down in retreat. Some things get knocked down. So much potential. Oh, no Witchblade. No Ethereal Slash from the Warlock. That's also a very good ability on retreat. And a Nob squad goes down. But, man, I didn't even realize just how far along we are into the game. It's now 123 VPs to only 40, with the red team having the double cap, but they are lower on VPs. Blue team has lost a lot of stuff. Everybody has lost a lot of stuff in this game, in fact. And there we go with another Eldritch. I don't know how much it did, though. Although we've got some Blastas now for all of these flash kits, so there are their Blastas.
We have 100 points remaining.
Must be like an entirely new model. But blue team now looking very strong. They're about to get a double cap. In fact, they are going for a triple. They will certainly get the decap off, and they're the ones getting the cap at a time when they can't afford to wait too long. And something that could be nice from Ekul right here would be if he switched out the enhanced warp generator for the phase armor, and he could use that for some last-minute capture denials. As it is, it looks like they may just win this game. Now, the red team will capture this point right here, but they just need to get something on this middle VP. They don't have a whole lot of time. Instead, actually, it's going to be I was going to say a pair, but I don't know why. Instead, it's just going to be these Kommando Nobs right here, or Commandos, that are going to cap and even decap the natural VP for the blue team, since the middle is a little too hot and a little too contested. However, that being said, I think Veyasu is moving his Grey Knight Terminators forward. If he wants to chase down a Fire Prism, he should do it with the Paladins, and maybe have the Grey Knight Terminators go for the point. Now, there are a lot of Fire Prisms out on the field. Of course, these Grey Knight Terminators, they cannot be knocked off the point, so that's what makes them a good choice for capping at a time when there are a bunch of Fire Prisms around. Meanwhile, we do have a lot of blue stuff going on top. We've got the another avatar, rather. This is the avatar that Finale has always had. Lieutenant Ekul just no longer has his avatar. Overall, though, whoa! But we've got some more backcapping over here. Maybe not backcapping, but certainly capping. We need to get these Dire Avengers off the point somehow. Need to do it quickly, or they will capture that point. And I feel like the red team does not have the time to... Oh! Alright, so Lieutenant Ekul did not want to play that game of chicken, and he just got his Dire Avengers out of there. Meanwhile, it looks like Paladins for Veyasu are going to go down. It's certainly very close. And meanwhile, we've got another Rocks in the middle, certainly missing things. Fire Prism goes down, just I think from being chased by Storm Boys, and also from this Commando using his rocket launcher. So it's tough to manage Fire Prisms when there is a Kommando Nob around. Very, very tough. You got to be very, very bold to even get a Fire Prism against a Kommando Nob, I'd say. The best hero for taking out Fire Prisms. And Fire Prisms can really, really be tough to deal with. If you're not properly equipped to deal with Fire Prisms, you could be done just when there's a Fire Prism out on the field. Here we go with an Orbital Bombardment. That Orbital is not going to actually get a whole lot. It's going to kill the Warlock for... No, it's not even going to kill the Warlock because he has Providence active, so the Warlock is fine. But we've got some Storm Boys going for the decap. This Warlock should do some Warp Throw into some Ethereal Slash to just absolutely destroy these Storm Boys. As it is, they get the decap off, and unfortunately, Finale just not paying attention right there. So the VPs keep changing hands really, really in this late game. Well, I was going to say the Paladins are going to go for that point. I was going to say maybe they should cap instead, but, I mean, otherwise, those Seer Council are just going to overrun them. But Veyasu needs something else out here to go for that point, I think. Oh, well, he needs more stuff out here, period. Seer Council at least get out here, which are the biggest threat to the Paladins. I feel like he could just get the Bro Captain on the point, but instead it's Crewfinity with his Commandos. Good choice, certainly. Commandos now in Elite Mod, they do have the 50% increased capping speed that Tactical Marines also have, and we've got some Storm Boys being very, very brazen. I don't think it's worth their time and worth their lives. They lose the Storm Boy Nob, so that's really, really bad. Storm Boys so expensive. 1-to-1 cap again, but the blue team going for this cap, they need to get the Autarch off the point, and I don't know how they're going to do that, and even if they do, something else might just resume the capture. I think Grenade Barrage could be what they need, and that does knock the Autarch off the point. She just gets right back on there, and she is actually probably going to get the cap, and if she does, that could be the end of the game unless these commandos... I see Crewfinity's actually going for this VP over here. He might not have enough time for that. I think they need to put the strike squad on the point or something. Here comes the battle wagon. Commandos, oh no! He hesitates with the commandos, and that actually should be the end of the game. Unless this strike squad right here, this is the strikes, they can't get it, and that's got to be it. I don't think the commandos can decap fast enough. It's going to be really close, but no. And that's the end of the game. The Eldar team takes it. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.